Here since dawn. I only want her door kept shut. It's contact isolation. It's in her chart.
There's no order. Wait downstairs.
Thank you for your time.
Room 411. Is that Agnes?
She's my sister. Do you know her?
I've cared for her on nights. She says you read to her.
Poetry, mostly.
The isolation order is real. I'll keep her door closed.
Thank you. You have no idea what that means.
The old man in the threadbare coat sat in a plastic chair outside room 411, and the charge nurse looked at him the way people look at a stain on good carpet. He had been there since dawn. He asked, quietly, 3 times, whether his sister could have her isolation door kept shut. 3 times he was told to wait. His shoes were cracked at the toe. His collar was frayed to threads. And the name printed above the front doors of that gleaming cancer center, the name carved in stone and lit gold at night, belonged to a woman he had loved for 41 years. Nobody knew that yet. Nobody thought to ask. They only saw the coat, and they decided, before he spoke a word, exactly what he was worth. His name was Harold Finch, and he was 74 years old. He had come up to the executive floor of the Baymont Cancer Institute in Harlan City on a gray Tuesday morning, carrying a paper sack with 2 oranges in it, because his sister Agnes liked the smell of the peel even when she could not eat. Agnes was frail now. The chemotherapy had thinned her to paper. Her white blood cell count had dropped so low that a common cold could kill her, and so she lived behind a door marked with a yellow sign, in what the staff called neutropenic isolation. Harold understood every word of that sign. He understood more about that floor than any person walking it, but he did not say so. He never said so. He simply asked, politely, if someone might check that her door stayed closed. The charge nurse was named Karen Loft, and she had worked the executive floor for 9 years, long enough to believe she could read a person's circumstances from across a hallway. She glanced at Harold's coat. She glanced at his sack of oranges, and she made her decision. "Sir," she said, "you can't loiter here. Family waits in the lounge downstairs." "I only want her door kept shut," Harold said. "Her counts are low. There's an order for it. Contact isolation." "There's no order," Karen said, without checking. "That'll be a scheduling issue. We'll sort it out. Wait downstairs." There was an order. It was signed, dated, and sitting in Agnes Finch's chart, exactly where it belonged. But Karen Loft did not open the chart, because she had already decided that the man in the frayed collar could not possibly know what he was talking about. Down the hall, a night oncology nurse named Elena Ruiz had come in early to trade a shift, and she saw the whole thing. She saw the old man stand up slowly, one hand on the small of his back, and gather his paper sack, and thank Karen for her time. He thanked her. That was what caught Elena. A man treated as though he were nothing, and he said thank you, the way you thank someone when you have long stopped expecting kindness and have decided to be kind anyway. Elena was soft-spoken. She had learned, in 6 years of night shifts, that the quietest patients were often carrying the heaviest things. Something about the old man's calm did not sit right with her. It was not the calm of a man who did not understand. It was the calm of a man who understood too much. "Sir," she said, catching him near the elevators. "Room 411. Is that Agnes?" His eyes came up, pale blue, tired, and terribly gentle. "She's my sister," he said. "Do you know her?" "I've cared for her on nights," Elena said. "She talks about her brother. She says you read to her." Something moved in the old man's face, a crack of warmth in all that weariness. "Poetry, mostly," he said. "She pretends to sleep, so I'll keep going." Elena smiled. Then she said, lower, "The isolation order is real. I've seen it. I'll make sure her door stays closed. I promise you that." "Thank you," Harold said again. And this time, the 2 words landed on Elena like a stone in still water, and she felt, without knowing why, that she had just been trusted with something enormous. She did not know yet what it was. The trouble, as it so often does, came dressed well. Camille Dorsey arrived on the executive floor at 11 that morning in a camel coat that cost more than Elena made in a month. She was the wife of a pharmaceutical executive, and her family had just pledged a naming gift for a new infusion wing, a gift large enough that the hospital's administration treated her arrival like the arrival of weather. Doors opened. Voices softened. Neil Pace, the floor administrator, appeared at her elbow within 90 seconds, smoothing his tie. Camille wanted a private room for a relative arriving that afternoon. She wanted a specific room. She wanted room 411, because it was the corner room, because it had the view, because she had decided she did. Room 411 belonged to Agnes Finch. "There's a patient in it," Elena said, when Neil Pace floated the idea. "She's neutropenic. She's on isolation protocol. You can't move her into a shared bay. She'll be exposed to." "We'll figure the clinical piece out," Neil Pace said, in the tone of a man who had never once figured out a clinical piece in his life. "Mrs. Dorsey's family is very important to the future of this institution. Let's be solutions-oriented." Dr. Roland Keyes, the attending oncologist, was consulted, and Dr. Keyes did what certain men do when a decision is inconvenient and profitable. He waved his hand. "She's stable enough," he said, without going to see her. "Downgrade the isolation, move her, we'll monitor." She was not stable enough. Her latest labs had not even posted, but Dr. Keyes had other appointments and a grant to protect. And Camille Dorsey's husband sat on a board that funded 3 of his studies. And so Agnes Finch, 71 years old and fighting for her life, was wheeled out of her sealed room and into an open 4-bed bay so that a wealthy woman could have a view. Elena fought it. She went to Karen Loft, and Karen said the order was under review. She went to Neil Pace, and Neil Pace said the decision was above her pay grade. She went to Dr. Keyes, and Dr. Keyes did not look up from his phone. And the old man in the threadbare coat, who had been sent downstairs to the family lounge, did not know yet that his sister's door was standing open. Here is a thing about hospitals that the people who run them sometimes forget. Everything is written down. Every entry, every visit, every order, every movement of a patient from one room to another, it is all logged, time-stamped, and true. The record is a kind of conscience made of ink and light, and a conscience is only dangerous to those who have something to hide. That afternoon, someone edited the log. The visitor record for room 411 was changed to show that Agnes Finch's brother, one Harold Finch, had left voluntarily and declined further contact at 10:40 in the morning. It was a small lie, a bureaucratic lie, the kind that tidies a mess. If the old man later said he had been forced out, that he had been kept from his sister, the record would say otherwise. The record would say he chose to go. It made everything cleaner. It was written by no one who would sign it, of course. But it did not go unseen. Tanya Boone was a unit clerk, 23 years old, 3 years out of a hard childhood, and she had learned young that the powerful rewrite the story and the powerless get written out of it. She watched the log entry change on her screen. She read the words left voluntarily, and she remembered the old man in the frayed coat sitting in that plastic chair since dawn, saying thank you, asking only that a door be kept shut. He had not left voluntarily. He had been escorted to an elevator. Tanya did not say anything. Saying something got clerks fired, but she took out her phone and she photographed her own screen, the original entry and the edited one, the before and the after, with the timestamps intact. Then she put her phone back in her pocket and kept her face still and answered her ringing line. "Executive floor, this is Tanya." She did not know what she would do with the picture. She only knew that some part of her would not let it be erased. By 7 that evening, Agnes Finch had a fever. It began as a shiver in an open bay with 3 other patients and a hallway of moving air. In a neutropenic patient, a fever is not an inconvenience. It is a 5-alarm emergency. It means the body's last defenses have been breached, and infection is loose in the blood, and the window to act before organs fail is measured in hours. There is a protocol. It is fast and aggressive, and it is not optional. Blood cultures, immediate antibiotics, rapid response. Every oncology nurse knows it by heart. But Agnes had been moved off her protocol. Her sign was gone from a door that was gone. In the shuffle of the afternoon, in the reshuffling of rooms to please a donor, her fever was missed. The vitals were charted by a float nurse who did not know her baseline. A temperature that looked unremarkable on paper meant catastrophe for this particular woman. On the chart, it looked like nothing. Elena Ruiz came on for the night shift at 7, took report, and did what the good ones always do. She went and looked at her patients with her own eyes. She walked into the bay, and she saw Agnes Finch, flushed and shaking and confused, and Elena's stomach dropped. "How long has she been like this?" she demanded. Nobody knew. Nobody had been watching. Elena moved. She moved the way you move when a life is a coin spinning on a table and you have 1 second to act. Cultures, lines, the rapid response call, the antibiotics running wide open. She got Agnes back behind a closed door. She fought for every minute. And when the worst of it had steadied, when Agnes was stable enough for Elena to step away for 10 minutes, Elena stood at the nurse's station with her hand on the phone and made a choice. She was not supposed to call the family herself. There was a chain for that, a script, a designated person, and none of it was her. If this went badly, if the room change came out and the names came out, the nurse who had called off the record would be the easiest one to blame. She knew that. She stood there and she knew it. And then she thought of an old man saying thank you to a woman who had treated him like nothing, and she picked up the phone anyway. She called down to the family lounge and had them find the old man in the threadbare coat. Harold Finch had been sitting in that lounge for 9 hours. He had not eaten. The 2 oranges were still in the sack on his knee. When they told him his sister had a fever, that she had been moved, that she was in trouble, the color left his face, and he stood, and for the first time all day the gentleness in him hardened into something else. Not anger, something steadier and far more quiet than anger. He walked to the elevator. He did not hurry, because a man who has known deep loss has learned that hurrying does not buy time. He rose to the executive floor, and he walked past Karen Loft, who opened her mouth to send him downstairs again, and he looked at her once, and the words died in her throat. He went to his sister's door and he saw Elena inside, working, and he saw the antibiotic running, and he understood that this young nurse had very likely saved Agnes's life in the past half hour, and he understood, too, exactly whose decision had put her in danger. Then Harold Finch reached into the inside pocket of his threadbare coat and took out a small coin. It was a dedication coin, bronze, worn smooth on one side from years of a thumb passing over it. It was the kind struck for the donors and the dignitaries on the day the Beaumont Cancer Institute opened its doors, 11 years before. On one face was the building, on the other was a name, a woman's name, the same name carved above the front entrance. The same name lit gold every night over the city of Harlan, because Harold Finch was the anonymous donor who had endowed the entire cancer center. He had built it. He had paid for the beds and the machines and the isolation rooms and the very door they had wheeled his sister out of. He had done it in memory of his wife, who had died of the same disease now threatening his sister, and he had done it without his name, without a plaque of his own, without a single photograph, because he did not want the thanks. He only wanted the place to exist so that other people would not lose what he had lost. For 11 years he had visited quietly, in an old coat, asking for nothing, and the institution he had raised from the ground had looked at his clothes and decided he was a nobody and sent him downstairs. He set the coin on the counter of the nurse's station, gently, so it made almost no sound. "I'd like to speak with the medical director," he said, "tonight." The medical director of the Beaumont Cancer Institute was a woman named Dr. Priya Anand, and she had known Harold Finch for 11 years. She was one of 3 people alive who knew what that coin meant. When the page reached her at home, and the voice said an old man was asking for her by name and had left a bronze dedication coin at the executive station, she was in her car before the call ended. She came onto the floor, still in her coat, and she saw Harold standing outside his sister's door, and she stopped. Every person at that station watched their medical director cross the hallway and take the hand of the old man they had been dismissing all day. "Harold," she said, "my God, what happened?" "They moved Agnes off isolation," he said, "to free her room. She developed a fever in an open bay. If this young nurse hadn't gone to look at her with her own eyes, my sister would not have seen morning." His voice did not rise. It did not need to. "I'd like to understand how that decision was made, and I'd like it discussed in front of the people who made it." Dr. Anand turned to the station, and her expression was grave and steady, and worse than any raised voice could have been. They came then. Karen Loft, who had called a signed medical order a scheduling issue and never once opened the chart. Neil Pace, who had approved a room change he never read, in the name of being solutions-oriented, and Dr. Roland Keyes, summoned from wherever he had been that evening, who arrived already talking, already explaining, already certain that his other obligations outranked the woman in the bay. "Dr. Anand," he began, "the patient was stable, the family understood." "The family," Dr. Anand said, "is standing right here." Harold Finch looked at Dr. Keyes for a long moment. "You never came to see her," he said. "It was not a question. You downgraded a neutropenic patient off protocol, and you never walked into the room. Did you look at her labs?" Dr. Keyes said nothing. "They weren't posted yet," Harold said. "So the answer is no. You gambled my sister's life on a room. For a view, for a donation." He shook his head slowly. "I know something about donations." That was the moment Tanya Boone stepped forward. Small, young, hands trembling, she held out her phone. "The log was changed," she said, in a voice that cracked and held. "It says he left voluntarily. He didn't. I saw them walk him to the elevator. I have the before and the after. I have the timestamps." She looked briefly at Karen Loft and then away. "I'm sorry, but it wasn't true, and I couldn't let it stay." Dr. Anand took the phone. She looked at the two images, the honest record and the edited version, and the hallway went very quiet. Camille Dorsey chose that moment to arrive, camel coat and impatience, wanting to know why her relative's corner room was still occupied. She got 3 sentences into her complaint before she registered the faces around her and stopped. "Mrs. Dorsey," Dr. Anand said, with a calm that was worse than shouting, "the room you requested tonight belongs to a patient who nearly lost her life so that you could have a view. And the man you have all spent the day dismissing." She turned and she gestured to Harold, and her voice caught despite herself, "is the reason this building exists. Every bed, every machine, the isolation room your convenience emptied. He built it in memory of his wife. The name above our door is hers." Nobody moved. Somewhere down the hall a monitor beeped and no one went to it. Camille Dorsey looked at the old man in the threadbare coat and understood, all at once, everything she had assumed and everything she had gotten wrong, and her mouth opened and closed and found nothing. Neil Pace had gone pale and taken a small step backward, as if distance could unmake the afternoon. Karen Loft had put a hand over her mouth, and Dr. Roland Keyes, who had never in his life been made to feel small, reached up and straightened a tie that did not need straightening, and looked, at last, exactly his size. Harold did not gloat. That was the thing that undid them more than any anger could have. He simply turned to Elena Ruiz, who had come out of Agnes's room wiping her hands, exhausted, having no idea what she had walked into. "You looked at her with your own eyes," he said to Elena, "when it wasn't convenient. When no one told you to. You're the only one on this floor who did." His voice thickened. "You saved my sister's life. I will not forget it. And I will make certain no one here forgets it either." Elena, who had spent 6 years of nights being told she was too soft, too slow, too quiet, could not speak. Agnes Finch lived. The antibiotics caught the infection in time, because a soft-spoken nurse had trusted her own eyes over a careless chart. It was a hard week, and then a better one, and then Agnes was sitting up, complaining that the oranges had gone bad in the sack, demanding her brother read her more poetry. He did. He pretended not to notice when she pretended to sleep. The reckoning came quietly, the way real reckonings do. Dr. Roland Keyes was suspended pending a review of the downgraded protocol and the near-fatal outcome, and the review did not go his way. Neil Pace resigned before he could be asked to. Karen Loft was moved off the executive floor and spent a long time, they say, thinking about a plastic chair and a man who had said thank you to her while she treated him like nothing. And the log. The edited entry, the tidy lie of left voluntarily, undone by a 23-year-old clerk with a phone and a conscience. Dr. Anand called Tanya Boone into her office, and Tanya went in certain she would be fired, and came out promoted, with a note in her file that said she had done the single bravest thing anyone on that floor had done all year. The Dorsey family's naming gift for the new infusion wing was quietly declined. Camille never came back for the corner room. But it is the last thing Harold Finch did that I want to leave you with. The hospital, once it knew who he was, wanted the photograph. Of course they did. The mysterious benefactor revealed, the old man in the coat who turned out to be the founder, the whole moving story of it. They wanted him at a podium. They wanted him beside the medical director, under the golden letters of his wife's name, smiling for the city of Harlan. Harold said no. Instead, he asked Dr. Anand to sit with him one evening, and he wrote out, in his own careful hand, the terms of a new fund. It was for the patients who came through the doors of the Baymont Cancer Institute, with no insurance, and no camel coats, and no board seats. The ones sent downstairs. The ones judged by their shoes. The fund would cover their treatment, quietly, no names taken, no photographs, no thanks required or wanted. He endowed it that week. He would not put his name on it. He would not put his wife's name on it either. She wouldn't have wanted her name on a thing, he said. She'd have wanted the thing. And when the hospital's communications office came, one last time, with a camera and a request for just one picture, please, for the announcement, Harold Finch put on his threadbare coat, and he buttoned it to the frayed collar, and he smiled, and he declined. No photograph, he said gently. Just take care of them. That's all I ask. He walked out through the front doors, under the gold letters that spelled his wife's name, an old man in a worn coat that had led an entire floor of clever, comfortable people to believe they knew exactly what he was worth. They had read his coat, and they had gotten every word of him wrong. Because a person's worth was never printed on their coat. It was never in the collar or the shoes or the make of the sack that carried 2 oranges up 9 floors to a sister who liked the smell of the peel. It was in what he did when no one was watching, and no one was thanking him, and no one thought he was anybody at all.